Times, they are a-changin', folks. This is the new world here in college football. Welcome to 2021. And welcome to the Voice of College Football here on a special edition as we have received some big news here this afternoon regarding the Ohio State Buckeyes and the top-rated quarterback and top-rated player in the country of 2022, now reclassified to 2021. So again, welcome in. Leave your comments, your questions, your debate topics, and any comments that you've got, of course, there in the live chat, and we will get to those as soon as possible. My name is Mark Rogers. This is the Voice of College Football, and we are here every day posting new content. We have just posted some new predictions concerning the Pitt Panthers season for 2021 and our prediction record for UCLA. Soon to come, South Carolina, and others, as we will march through all the Power 5 conferences and Notre Dame and leave you record predictions, followed by our conference championship games and college football playoffs. We hope to be as accurate as we were, at least with the national championship game last year, Alabama over Ohio State, which I believe was the outcome in January. All right, now to the topic at hand involving Ohio State commit and signee. Now Ohio State current player on the roster, as we understand, Quinn Ewers. Fascinating news involving him as he is in the process of enrolling at Ohio State. Appreciate everybody, again, being on the line as we dive into this conversation concerning Quinn Ewers. And there's no question that he just flat out stated, we don't have to make any conjecture here, that based on the new state of college football and the new earning opportunities, he made this decision. He just flat out stated it. That was first and foremost in his statement concerning name, image, and likeness and the opportunity to earn money, and concerning his college football career. Not his college football playing on the field necessarily, although that has to do with it as well. So there's three basic benefits as I comb through this that seem to be pretty apparent, and I would like for you guys to chime in on any that you see. But first of all, he stated it. Name, image, and likeness. He's the #1 quarterback in the country. He's going to be competing for the Ohio State job. Even if he's not able to get much playing time, he's still on campus at Ohio State, and he's still the quarterback of the future. Therefore, name, image, and likeness comes into play immediately for him, much like it does Bryce Young, although Young obviously on campus, first of all, as Alabama's quarterback from this previous season in 2020, had already been on campus and it had been a named player despite not starting for the Crimson Tide. And then also number 2, already named the starting quarterback for Alabama. So there is some separation between Bryce Young's situation in earning what has been reported between $800,000 and $1 million for NIL opportunities this fall, and what is in play possibly for Quinn Ewers. So that's first and foremost. Name, image, and likeness, it was stated by Ewers. Secondly, his ability to get on the field, just needing to finish up one high school class, apparently, just finishing that up. Enrolling at Ohio State, I don't know how long that's going to take, so we can certainly better understand that timing situation. We'll have our Ohio State show, of course, here live Wednesday at 2 Eastern with Tony Gerdeman, Steve Hellwagon, and Kevin Noon. We'll try to find out before that, based on maybe your own experiences and what you have found out online. I have not been able to see exactly what they're expecting. I've heard the term in sifting through a few articles, weeks has been designated as a time frame, meaning he may not be able to make it for the first day of practice, which I believe is, I get these teams mixed up because I've had all sorts of dates in my mind concerning when these various teams go to practice. For Ohio State, I believe it was August 3rd, which would be Tuesday, tomorrow. So he's not going to make that. He might be a week or 2 late. Obviously, the other quarterbacks have a huge advantage. He is a huge talent, though. It's going to be fascinating from that standpoint. The competition involves 4 quarterbacks. C.J. Stroud, the number 2 quarterback in his class, apparently is the front runner. That's actually been somewhat confirmed by Ryan Day as the front runner, not necessarily the starter. Not the starter as it stands right now. There's not been a starter named for game 1 against Minnesota, which is on a Thursday night, September 2nd. Then also taking into consideration, you got Jack Miller, and then you also have who appears to be the most likely candidate to push Stroud previously was Kyle McCord out of Philadelphia, and now we've got one Quinn Ewers. I've got some work going on outside the house here. Hopefully that's not bleeding into the microphone. Let's catch up with all of you, and I'd like to dissect this even further in regards to what this can all look like and what we can expect over the next month as the Buckeyes prepare for the season opener against Minnesota, and how much Quinn Ewers could factor into this quarterback competition. All right. Clawbanger is concerned about the number 1 rated recruiting class for 2021. Clawbanger, I get it. I know that apparently you and other people are concerned about class rankings. I would be more concerned about the players on the field. So regardless of how this shakes up, he's an Ohio State football player in 2021. He has made this decision. It may hurt Ohio State down the road in not having him in what would have been a future season. Now, most likely, he's going to factor into the competition, but not necessarily be the favorite to have the job this season. But in terms of the rankings, yes, you basically take Quinn Ewers and you subtract him from the 2022 class. So Ohio State received a decommitment from Jaheim Singletary just yesterday, a top 15 player in the nation. So subtract Singletary, a 5-star, subtract Ewers from the 22 class, and Ohio State's ranking plummets. The ranking's not going to plummet, but a couple 5-stars off the board for Ohio State. And they also lost a 4-star tight end out of North Carolina last week. So Ohio State's number 1 ranking for 22 in serious jeopardy. But again, be concerned with the players on the field. Ewers just gets reclassified from 22 to 21. It bolsters the 21 class. How much? I don't know. I'm sure those rankings are going to be updated soon. Got Phil B, who says this means that Florida State commit Travis Hunter will be the number 1 recruit in the nation for 2022. So again, that is something that Florida State fans can savor in regards to improving. It's not necessarily the class ranking to a certain extent, but bragging or boasting, touting the number 1 player in the nation going to Florida State for 22. I would be more concerned with the players and when they're coming. Jeremiah Powell, big Texas fan, here with us. Good to see you. Hook 'em. Please check out our Texas channel if you have yet to do so. Lewis Papp. They will never, meaning Ohio State or probably anybody, seek 4 quarterbacks like this again. You would not think so. I will not make that statement, but Lewis, I would not be surprised if you are correct. Will we ever see 4 quarterbacks considering the opportunities to make money like this again? Carvon Johnson, gig 'em. Carvon, I hope you've enjoyed our conversations with Andrew Hattersley from 247 Sports. Gig 'em. We've broken down the offense, defense, and special teams for Texas A&M, also the recent recruiting, and our big announcement tonight also includes Texas A&M coverage. So tonight at 7, right here, we have a special announcement concerning our coverage of the voice of college football for this season. I'm pumped. Other people are pumped. Can't wait to let you know what we've got on tap for college football coverage this season. We're going to unveil that tonight at 7 Eastern. Also, a new feature on Patreon, which is going to be unveiled here in the next several days as well. So for those of you who are already following us on Patreon at the Voice of College Football, where you search Mark Rogers TV on Patreon, good news for you. You get an added bonus. In addition to, many of you will now want to subscribe and join us on Patreon. And we will unveil that coming up very soon as well. Let's get back to the comments and question concerning Quinn Ewers and anytime we go live with an announcement like that, of course, the focus is on the big story of the day. That's why it's posted. That's why I'm here. I was working on other things for the channel and for the platform, and I had debated on whether to go live or record a video piece about Quinn Ewers. Decided, let's just go live. Let's go with it. Let's put it on both the Maine and the Ohio State channels. But we can talk about anything concerning college football, of course. The Rod Farva says, notice how those who are upset about Ewers and criticizing Ohio State forget JT Daniels did the same thing. I haven't seen anybody who's been critical yet. So our Green Bay fan, no, he's he loves me now, calling him a Green Bay fan. I had to read through this handle here. Go Bears, not a Green Bay fan, has a pleasantry for Aaron Rodgers and company here. He won't get the job until next year. He should redshirt Ewers. I don't necessarily know if it's going to matter if he redshirts. Actually, he should not redshirt because, well, again, you can play 4 games in redshirt. I really don't think it's necessarily going to matter because Quinn Ewers, if he reaches his goals and if his future is what is expected, he's not going to be at Ohio State for 4 or 5 years anyway. So whether he redshirts and he's a redshirt sophomore and then goes to the NFL, or he just plays through as a junior and then goes to the NFL, it's all just classification and naming, unless somebody can point out something that I'm unaware of. Carvon, this is all over the place. So this is on 247 Sports. This is on Rivals and Letterman Row and CBS Sports. This is all over the place. This is confirmed. George! Oh my gosh, Mark. Happy days for Ohio State. You should be the first one to buy his autograph. George, if you know anything about me, you know I would not buy anybody's autograph. I've never purchased an autograph in my life. I've received a few. I've never purchased one. Don't care to have anybody's autograph. You are talking to the exact opposite person right here. I worked with somebody at ESPN who used to try to get everybody's autograph. Anybody who was moderately popular or famous that would walk on campus, he would try to get their autograph. I am the last guy. You can't really name anybody whose autograph I would care to even have for free. But yeah, I know you're joking, George. So, but I'm setting you straight on that one. Yes. Once had a story, and I want to make this perfectly clear. I was not with anyone at the time, meaning a significant other. I've got to state that in front of this story. Jessica Alba was at ESPN once, and word was that she was in the cafeteria. And I had a bunch of guys contact me as everybody was circulating the word and talking, as would be the case, and said, why don't you go down to the cafeteria? Let's all go down to the cafeteria and see Jessica Alba. I didn't have any, that didn't interest me. My response was, only if I can get a date. Only if I can speak to the woman and get a date would I have any enticement. Scottie Pippen was down the hall once, and I remember that people were saying, "Hey, you can just just walk outside the door. Scottie Pippen's right there," and people are talking to him. It was against company policy for anybody to approach anyone and ask for an autograph, but that rule was broken by people, and so maybe one or two people had received an autograph from Scottie Pippen. My response was, again, yeah, just not my thing. All right. One of the best conversations I ever had with a famous person would have been Jerry Rice on 2 occasions. Jerry Rice, I find it interesting in some of the documentaries I've seen, specifically on the NFL Network, about Jerry Rice, that he's a bit aloof and standoffish, and maybe he wasn't the best speaker when he was growing up, so he's a bit shy, and that's always been in the back of his mind. But Jerry Rice was extremely engaging and forthright and willing, just not just to be pleasant and courteous about the interview. Many celebrities are courteous about the interview and they're nice, but they want to get on with their business. But Jerry Rice just like hung out. 2 occasions with Jerry Rice. And I don't know that he remembered me from the first one. I think he was just a nice guy. And actually, I was by myself. I was a one-man band. So it wasn't even though there was, I was the reporter and had a cameraman with me that made life so much easier in terms of the setup and the lighting and everything. But I had to do all that by myself and like have him hold the mic. And he was great. I don't know how our Quinn Ewers report got into Jerry Rice. My bad. All right. Something about an autograph. That's right. In the band music appreciation studio, Day's team management skills will surely be tested. Not enough people talking about how this might affect locker room dynamics and chemistry. Okay, they have the same situation at Georgia, or they did last year, with 4- and 5-star quarterbacks tripping over one another. I understand your point. I think it's a valid point. I don't think it's necessarily going to be a detriment, but it could be, depending on Day's ability to manage and communicate. His ability to be firm, but also be understanding and sensitive to each young player, to be forthright, to be honest, to be transparent about the situation, about the competition, to lay it all out there for each one of them. But also those individuals' maturity in dealing with the situation to say, hey, we got 4 of us here. One's going to be the starting quarterback. Maybe 2 will play to some degree. David Knight. Good to see you. Let's toast media. Go Blue, Michigan, with their own 5-star quarterback vying for a job. J.J. McCarthy this season. Not necessarily in the lead, though, according to Jimbo, who said Cade McNamara looks great. Looks like he's going to be the quarterback on day 1. NIL, Lewis, NIL. When Quinn Ewers stated that he, on social media, made the statement and was very explicit, he listed NIL and was the most detailed about NIL. Now, had he said, it's going to be an honor to play for Ohio State and Coach Day, I want to get a jump on my quarterback development at that level, all those things, and then maybe mentioned NIL or not even mentioned NIL, then we would have all conjectured NIL had something to do with it. But he was very forthright. That was the first thing he stated, and he said more about NIL than anything else. This is an opportunity for me to benefit from name, image, and likeness. Tijuana, 22 rankings aren't final. Well, of course they're not final. Nobody's even signed. So yes, we are 5 months away from the early signing period. So in December, about 85 to 90% of the players will be signed, and then we won't even be final then. We won't be final until really even February, there's a few that trickle in after the Wednesday in February. Shane, FSU and Clemson to ACC, is that true possibility? I believe you mean SEC. Who knows? I think that if Florida State and Clemson would go to the SEC, I think then you would see basically a situation, and this was a possible topic for a video in the next couple of days, where we look at an SEC ACC merger and then look at the rest of the country to get together for two possible, if it works out perfect. Well, it's not perfect in my world, but the numbers make it easier to schedule and to format and to organize two massive 32-team conferences. If you put the ACC and the SEC together, of course, 16 plus 14 is 30. So maybe it's a 30-team conference. Maybe they take in UCF or somebody else, and you've got 32 teams, and then you've got the Pac-12 and the Big Ten. If they get together, they've got 26 between them. Easily pick up 4 involving the remainder of the Big 8 or Cincinnati, something like that. And you've got 2 mega conferences. Possible. I don't see Florida State and Clemson alone going to the SEC. That would do similar harm to the ACC as, of course, Oklahoma and Texas leaving the Big 12. I don't know that that would annihilate the ACC, because from a quantity standpoint, they would still have 12, but in terms of the quality, it would rip them apart, similar to what Oklahoma and Texas leaving the Big 12 did. Yakov 22, good to see you. Pointing out that 4 quarterbacks have the 4 years of eligibility, 5 to play 4. George, this absolutely means that nobody likes Quinn Ewers. Or nobody likes me, but I don't want to face that. I don't want to face that possibility, George. Todd Carter, I kind of already addressed that question about the Big Ten, the ACC, and the Pac-12. It depends if it's a massive merger or if we're just picking off teams. I don't believe the Big Ten, as we've talked about, the Big Ten will not add teams, just add teams for numbers. And the teams that are available, meaning we consider teams from the group of 5 to be available, we would consider the Big 8 remaining teams to be available, meaning they're kind of free agent status. So any group of 5 is going to elevate itself to a Power 5. And then, of course, the Big 8 is in shambles to a certain extent. So they're kind of free agents. I don't believe any of those football programs are attractive enough for the Big Ten. Although at the same time, if you're going to destroy geography, I believe the Big Ten could go to UCF. Go to Florida, get UCF if you're going to tear down the geographic boundaries. That would be the school that I would go after. But so I don't see anybody just picking off teams just to match the SEC. It could be massive, though, in scale. It could be the ACC and the SEC versus the Pac-12 and the Big Ten and a little bit of the Big 12. Something like that could be the end result of all this. Abraham, everyone should follow the Oklahoma model of recruiting 5-star quarterbacks. Yeah, there's only a couple of those guys. And I think Alabama should follow their model. I think Alabama is the one program in the nation that definitely should just be following its model. And Ohio State would be second. Jeremiah, what do you think of the Longhorn coaching staff? How good do you think they are? Well, I think Steve Sarkisian's done a pretty remarkable job in fortifying his staff. I want to see them all work together, and I want to see because basically as a coaching staff for individual coaches, they have 2 things to deal with. primarily they're going to be evaluated by how they develop the unit that they are overseeing and then also recruit. And based on everybody we've looked at on the Texas coaching staff, the individual unit coaches seem to be first rate in regards to what they've accomplished at their previous stops. Yes. Ken Smith, this just opens up Arch Manning 23. Some Oklahoma fans taking a bit of exception, just confirming that OU is QBU currently. I get that. I believe in that. I would back that up. We're talking about the last 5 to 10 years. Yes, Oklahoma since Baker Mayfield. That's a short period of time. Currently, Oklahoma. Yeah, Mayfield, Murray, Hurts, Radler, and we'll see how the next 5-star plays once Radler moves on. But yeah, Oklahoma is recruiting and signing quarterbacks better than anyone. Ohio State's right there. Georgia's right there. That's where we stand. Okay, we've got a Massive Attack fan who says his tape, meaning Ewers, makes it look like he could win the job right away or at least be a backup this season. I think that's astute right to there. It's going to be about his ability to raise his game and pick up the offense, be able to communicate that offense, lead on the field, make the right decisions in a split second, not be able to go to a chalkboard or a whiteboard and communicate the offense. So he's going to learn the offense, which, unless this was a spur of the moment decision, don't be surprised if there hasn't been communication between Ryan Day and Quinn Ewers for months concerning Ohio State's offense and him being sent information, plays concerning Ohio State's offense. Unless that's against NCAA guidelines. I don't know. That's possible. So anyway, because he has been committed and signed, well, he was going to be signed this December for the 22 class. So just to make that straight, Quinn Ewers was in the 22 class, which is going to be signed in December of 21. So he had yet to sign. Now he is signed and enrolling after completing this last high school class, apparently. So it's not about ability necessarily. If the scouts are right, he's the best quarterback. He is the best. He's not the best quarterback. He's the best skill set. He's the most talent of those guys, apparently. That's the scouting report. That's the evaluation. But to go from there to running an offense in the Big Ten, those are two different levels of play. One is just pure throwing the football. One is consuming a playbook, understanding that playbook, understanding how to execute that playbook under fire, and making the right reads and decisions on the field and delivering the ball, and then displaying leadership skills. So there's a lot there for Quinn Ewers to show. Let's Toast Media would like a Charles Woodson autograph. Many would. Michael is telling us that Ewers got outplayed by the Westlake quarterback in the state championship game last year. Who is the Westlake quarterback and where is he going? He's not aware of that. Red Wine is asking why people like the SEC. So those would be organizations like the SEC and the and ESPN want to kill college football programs. Well, that's what the Big 12 is claiming. If that's true, if the Big 12 legitimately has a claim, whether that can be backed up or not, or maybe it's a legitimate claim that they cannot back up, the one main reason for that, Red Wine, if it's true, is that ESPN and the SEC are primary partners. Now that the CBS deal is just a couple of years away from its finale, the SEC and ESPN have been partners forever, but they are stronger partners than they've ever been, and they are sole partners now. They've got a network that's has as many subscribers as ESPN2, and they will now carry ESPN ABC, the primary games of the SEC, in addition to all the other games that they've carried for several years. So the line of thinking is that there would be an incentive to kill the Big 12 and hurt Fox. This is all speculation by Bob Bowlesby and the Big 12 until we see more. Buckeye fans, how does it feel to have more than one five-star quarterback getting ready to be on the Ohio State roster for this season? Two other school can say that. No other school can say that. George is going for the autograph. Good comment here by McCulwell. I don't think a lot of people realize how much Ryan Day is taking control of the ship at Ohio State. There's a reason why Ohio State has more than one five-star quarterback. Ryan Day is a master at, so it's just a perfect situation at Ohio State, much like it is at Oklahoma, where you have a powerhouse brand, an innovative offense. You have them signing weapons at wide receiver. And then on top of that, you've got a head coach who is known as a developer of quarterbacks and has shown himself to be such. Hey, Sue. Good to see you, Sue. We are live. We didn't expect to be, but we're going live, and we're going to be back live, everyone, at 7 p.m. Eastern time, and we've got a special announcement to make about our coverage for the 21 season. So I'm glad you're here. Even if Lewis is not happy that you're here, even though he tried to dodge you, I did not. You know that you're a priority here at the Voice of College Football. Sue knows that. Ooh, Tijuana. What a question here. Who is the greatest quarterback in SEC history, and why is it a tie between Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, and Sam Bradford? Ha, ha, ha. Well, the greatest college quarterback in SEC history. Well, let's make the list first. Archie Manning, Eli Manning, Peyton Manning. You start in the Manning household and you just list them off. And then you go to Tim Tebow. Cam Newton for one season might be the greatest quarterback in the history of the conference. And then again, for a one-season performance, Kyle Trask and Mac Jones. For one season, not saying they're the greatest quarterbacks in the history of the conference, but for one season, statistically, Mac Jones might be the greatest quarterback in the history of the conference. Maybe it's Joe Burrow through 60 touchdown passes, through 76 in 2 years. So the statistics are going to favor the current guys, of course. Tua. Who else do we have? LSU, Auburn, Pat Sullivan, Steve Spurrier at Florida. Really nobody else, even though Danny Werfel won a Heisman. Anybody else that I'm missing? Arkansas, Clint Sterner. He was good. Missouri, since they joined the league, Drew Lock threw 44, 48 touchdown passes a few years ago. Anyway, I believe it's got to be Tebow. He's the guy, isn't it? A national championship as the starter, a Heisman Trophy, and a second national championship as a backup who played and scored touchdowns. Cam Newton for one season. Statistically, Mac Jones or Joe Burrow. We will have to make that list at some point. Maybe next offseason, Tijuana. And we're not including your Oklahoma players. We're not doing it. No. Anthony, bad week to be a Buckeye fan. Losing commits and getting Quinn Ewers early. So McCulwell says 2 of the 4 quarterbacks on the roster at Ohio State will leave, and those 2 quarterbacks will be Jack Miller and Kyle McCord. I think that C.J. Stroud will still be the starter against Minnesota. If he plays well, meaning they win and they score a lot of points. So it's going to come in a bit of a different way than Justin Fields, and maybe not to that degree. But if they are scoring 35 points a game and they're winning as expected, then CJ Stroud would most likely keep the job, unless Ryan Day sees a similar situation to what Kelly Bryant did in 2017, then into 2018 with Trevor Lawrence being Trevor Lawrence. So what Dabo saw was a national championship winning quarterback on his bench who was a freshman versus a capable running style quarterback who could lead them to the playoffs as the ACC champion because they were so much better than everyone else, but he wanted to win a national championship, and he slightly rolled the dice to say inexperienced quarterback's going to go in despite us being undefeated with a decent top 30 or 40 quarterback in Kelly Bryant. And the rest is history. We will ask that question on Wednesday, Kels 14, about the update on, oh man, I haven't seen his name spelled in so much time. Not Gaotete. I think it's a Peo Gaotete, the USC linebacker who is at Ohio State. He's enrolled at Ohio State, and they start, is it tomorrow? Or it's this Friday, sometime between Tuesday and Friday. I get my dates mixed up with all the other teams we cover. Oh boy, Anthony, what do you got here? Mark, can you explain to me how reclassifying works in terms of affecting recruiting rankings? Well, basically, Quinn Ewers, being the current example, was classified in the 22 class. Therefore, he was credited toward Ohio State's 22 class rankings. So you deduct him as if he never committed to the 22 class, and you place him on the 21 class. So therefore, he bolsters the 21 class ranking, whatever that was for Ohio State. I believe it was number 2 in the country. I don't know if he's going to, his presence in addition to the 21 class is going to boost them past Alabama. I doubt it. But it could. Does it matter? No, it doesn't matter. It's just a ranking of either 1 or 2. It's the same players involved. But his subtraction from the 22 class is obviously going to be a subtraction. Now, in terms of the decimal points, that is beyond this conversation here. We'd have to get out a calculator and figure out the whole thing. Every player is graded and evaluated and has a system that you see on 247 Sports. You'll see it 0.94, whatever, for a top-level 5-star recruit. And then you'll see that all put together. So the quality of each player combined with the number of players committed or signed, which, for example, for Penn State's 24 right now, and one of the reasons why they have the second rated class in 2022 is put together the quantity and the quality to give you a point total. So you take away Quinn Ewers, the number one rated player in the class, that's a substantial loss to the ranking for 2022 and a substantial addition for 2021. So if Quinn Ewers as the 5-star and the number one rated quarterback in the country was added to a 2021 class for somebody else that was the 37th rated class in the country, it would boost them considerably. They may go from 37 to 31, but he's being added to the number 2 class in the country that can only move up one spot, and it may not even be enough for them to move up that one spot and displace Alabama. Just a math equation. James, we had addressed that earlier. So for anybody that has missed the first, 25, 30 minutes, I'm guessing. We're at 41 minutes. Please jump on back. We addressed basically the previous questions had to do with what are the other conferences going to do to counter the SEC, just add on, or could there be mega conferences that are going to result? So we address that in regards to the Pac-12 and the Big Ten in particular. McCallwell says, I guess it's funny, Mark. Kyle McCord will be one of the quarterbacks that leaves Ohio State with Jack Miller. Michigan's quarterback wasn't good enough to start at Ohio State and rhymed a pig McCord. Okay. You guys all joke about that in the live chat. I'm not catching on to that one. Maybe I read it wrong. Hman 998. South Carolina prediction coming in the morning. How about that? Christopher, Mark, why do you have misgivings about recognizing legitimate national championships? Take out the term legitimate, and that's why I have misgivings. Okay? From the beginning of time in college football up until and through 1997, it was a vote. One vote was done by sports writers and the other vote by other sports writers, the Associated Press and the United Press International for you younger folks. And that served us through 1988. Then I believe in 1989, we went to a top 25 with the Associated Press and then the USA Today, which then involved the coaches poll. The coaches poll came into play during that time. And so then you had two polls. And why is that assumed to be a legitimate national championship when people are voting? It's a national championship that was determined by people, not a national championship or a championship of the league as determined by a system on the field, such as what we see in other sports. So what I'm stating is that every national championship, this is easy to substantiate, every national championship can be questioned to a certain degree. Some in a small degree, some in a large degree. So in 1990, when Colorado is awarded a national championship and they lost a game, they tied a game, and on top of that, they truly lost another game. It can't even be disputed. They were given a fifth down on the play that was needed to win the game. So it's not even a situation where like Ohio State and Miami in the Fiesta Bowl, where we can argue back and forth for hours and days as to whether the call should have been made. No, the officials wrongly gave them a fifth down that they needed. They did not score the points required to win the game on fourth down. The game was over. They were given an extra play. I believe that's against the rules. A fifth down, they scored to win, quote, on the scoreboard, in the books, it's official, win the game. But it's known by everybody that they lost the game because they did not convert the points on fourth down. Therefore, that Colorado team in 1990 actually lost 2 games and tied a game. On top of that, they went to the Orange Bowl and were leading 10-9 with just a couple minutes to play. Obviously, a defensive struggle. Neither offense could do much of anything. And Rocket Ismail ran back a punt for a touchdown. Most people determine, as did myself in watching the game, that clip should not have been called. Notre Dame should have been given the touchdown as they earned it on the field. It was just a bad call, and that happens. So in this particular case, are you telling me that that's a legitimate national championship in which Colorado clearly lost 2 games and tied a game? That's a pretty marred record. 9 wins, 2 losses, and 1 tie for a national champion. And on top of that, they truly, by most objective measures, if you know football and know the rules, lost the Orange Bowl, which leaves them with 8 wins, 3 losses, and 1 tie, but they have a legitimate national championship. That's just one example of dozens. Okay. Caldwell thinks expansion is bad for the Buckeyes because we're in the Big Ten. We are the Big Ten, but the Big Ten would not be anything without Ohio State. Well, that's a bit of a stretch, but I got your point. Ohio State is the best program in the conference. But if you take away Ohio State, the Big Ten is still better than the ACC right now, and it's still better than the Pac-12 right now. Yeah, my Alabama Tide. This is a long-standing issue that Chris has about BYU in a video that I posted like 27 years ago. Okay, Chris, by your criteria that you're listing right there, I could name national champions and I could name them whomever I want, and they would be legitimate by my criteria. So my criteria is whoever I feel like should be the national champion is the national champion. So last year, I am awarding the national championship to Arizona State because I just like them. And I just felt as though if they would have gotten a chance to play more games, they would have been really good. So they went 2-2. I'm awarding Arizona State the national championship. And so by your criteria, it's legitimate because we have a system here. We've got a channel. The system is I declare the national champion. It's Arizona State for 2020. And so it's a legitimate national championship. John, who gets the SEC championship first, Oklahoma or Texas? That would seem pretty obvious now, but things change. Rocket. The Rod Favre about blocking people, I would generally agree with you, but I've certainly seen instances in um, in which people should be blocked. And Tijuana brings up a good point that Colorado may not have even gotten it on 5th down. Maybe they really needed a 6th down. And none of this in any way, if any Buff fans or anyone else is misconstruing this, it's not Colorado's fault. It's not their fault. They shouldn't give anything back or concede anything. They played. The officials gave them an extra play. They're not supposed to be keeping track of the plays. And even if they did, they just kept playing and they scored and they won the game. They shouldn't have to do anything to give anything. So it's not Colorado's issue. It's not their fault. Tijuana, that's what we're trying to do is sort through disputed national championships, and we will continue to do that. Jack, I have said that I'm leaning Georgia. I've stated that many times, but my predictions come out the week of the game, which is another good reason why you guys should jump on over to Patreon, because we've got a big announcement on Patreon. I'm not comfortable in announcing it quite yet. A few details need to be worked out, but my predictions, both, well, you're going to see my season predictions. You already are. I released UCLA last night and somebody today. Don't remember who. Somebody today. Pitt came out today. And so you're going to see my season predictions here. My weekly predictions will be on Patreon. And we've got a bigger edition to announce soon on Patreon. Speaking of which, tonight, 7 o'clock Eastern time, please be here. We've got a huge announcement about what we're going to provide for everyone coming up this fall here at the Voice of College Football. Christopher, I believe you are still misconstruing what my issue with the 1984 is. It's not that their national championship should be taken away from them. It's that it's disputed, meaning there are other ways to look at the results and what transpired in regards to other teams having a claim for the championship. This could be stated most years. That's a good question, Charles Madison, about Ohio State going after another quarterback in 22 now. So nobody's thinking about that, or nobody's at least raising that question, but you. So you lose the number one quarterback in the country. So now you've got a situation where you've got, if everyone stays, and there are better recruiting people to figure this out in regards to the numbers per position and how they're classified to determine how many players you need and when they should be signed. So typically you should sign one quarterback per class, but they've got 4 young quarterbacks. They're all freshmen or redshirt freshmen. So I would say that they should not sign a quarterback. They should not reach for a quarterback in 22, because this is what's going to happen. 1 or 2 are going to leave. But if this class of quarterbacks on the roster in the quarterback room for 21 sees that Ohio State does not sign anyone for 22, maybe they all stay, or maybe at least 3 of the 4 stay, knowing that nobody was signed for 22. And you can keep 3 of the 4. You can always go to the transfer portal for a fourth quarterback if you really need a fourth capable quarterback. No, let's all understand that there are probably 7 quarterbacks on the roster. It's usually 6 or 7. Now, those other guys, you don't want them to be playing. You want them to be on the scout team. But they may retain 3 instead of 2 if they don't sign a quarterback for 22. But Ohio State being Ohio State and you wanting to maintain excellence, if there is a quarterback that can be signed for 22 that is legit, potentially great quarterback that they really love, they should still sign him. Of course, that was off their radar until this situation, I would think. DF believes that Georgia Tech is going to the Big Ten. They certainly qualify academically. Jeremiah, do you think Texas, with their top-tier recruiting classes under Tom Herman, can be elevated to contend for Big 12 championship? Well, I do think that a couple issues with their recruiting classes is that they were a bit out of balance. They weren't necessarily balanced recruiting classes. They were void along the offensive line in particular. So that's one issue. And I think that the other issue would be that they have not been developed to this point. They, fortunately for them, had a full off season, unlike last season, spring practice, summer ball, to get them ready and better developed by what could be a better coaching staff. So could Texas win the Big 12 championship? I don't anticipate it. I believe that they're too flawed. But if they won the Big 12 championship, would I be surprised? No. They're more talented top to bottom on the roster than Iowa State, and they're just as talented as Oklahoma, but they don't have the development in the program. They've not shown that ability that Oklahoma has in particular. And Iowa State, of course, the window for Iowa State this year is huge for Iowa State because they are loaded and they're going to cycle down after this year. Carolina Red wants Penn State and West Virginia to the ACC. That would be a bad move for Penn State. I don't know why Penn State would leave the Big Ten. They're making so much more money in the Big Ten. So much more money in the Big Ten. And now Tijuana is looking for the greatest running back in SEC history. And why is it a tie between, of course, he's going the Oklahoma and Texas route now between AP and Ricky Williams. Bo and Herschel are the two obvious choices right out of the gate. Then you also have Darren McFadden and Cadillac Williams. Look at what Najee Harris did the last few years. It's not the greatest resume in the history of the conference, but it's better than most people, I think, would rank him. Derrick Henry, of course, had 2 remarkable seasons. Mark Ingram had a great career. Emmitt Smith. Fred Taylor had a remarkable career. And we've named most of the other guys that would be at that very elite status. Probably Herschel over Bo based on team success and his contribution to that team success, which he was the guy. Bo at Auburn, they had a decent 82 season, 9-3. Then in 83, they had their big season in which they could, Chris, listen up, could claim a national championship. They were 11-1, just like Miami was 11-1. They played a tougher schedule. That's what I'm talking about disputed national championships. In 1983, Miami, Nebraska, and Auburn all went 11-1. That's a disputed national championship. There was not a national championship game, number one. Just had different teams playing different teams based on bowl slotting, conference affiliation. So Wageman 998, if I'm understanding your comment, you need to understand, if you're talking about there being more money in the SEC than the Big Ten, they're running like neck and neck. Actually, the last 2 football seasons, the Big Ten has paid out more revenue to its football members than the SEC. So understand that. Now, this is going to change with Texas, Oklahoma added to the SEC and the additional value and the change in TV contract with ESPN becoming the sole proprietor of SEC football. But let's understand before we make comments, unless I'm missing something here about what your comment is, let's understand that the Big Ten has been paying out more per team the last 2 years, not much more, but the SEC and the Big Ten, they have owned the sport financially. Okay. Yeah, the 2 Texases and, of course, the safety, Roy Williams, who was the better NFL player by far. Charles, I have no idea what Brian Hartline's aspirations are in terms of being a head coach or otherwise. All right. Then we've got Brandon. Mark, do you think any teams, USC, Oregon, Washington in the Pac-12, have any chance at a college football playoff run? Sure they do. Or would it make more sense to leave for the Big Ten? Well, yes. The Pac-12 is in a hole regarding perception for a playoff run, most likely until the perception changes and makes its way to the College Football Playoff Selection Committee. Any Pac-12 champion is going to need a better record than the teams that they are competing against for a playoff spot until we get to 12. But as it stands right now, yes, if there is a one-loss Pac-12 champion and there's a one-loss conference champion from a Power 5, the Pac-12 champion is going to be left out at this point, unless the resumes just line up in a certain way that gives them the argument. Yes, the Pac-12 is playing from a disadvantage, but can they make the playoff? Yes, they can make the playoff. During this stretch of time, which has been 4 seasons, right? 2017, 18, 19, and 20, 4 seasons in which the Pac-12 has not reached the playoffs, they did not have a team that had a legitimate claim. It's not like they had an Oklahoma-Ohio State situation of 2018 where there were 2 13-1 conference champions and one got left out. They did not have a team in any of those years that had a legitimate claim at a playoff spot based on losing too many games. They obviously did not in 2020. Their conference champion was 4-2. So forget 2020. Go back to 2019. Their conference champion, Oregon, lost a late season game against Arizona State. That was their second loss. The teams that were competing in the playoff had 1 loss. Ohio State did not make the playoff with 1 loss. So Oregon certainly wasn't even close with 2 losses. In 2017, of course, Washington did not make the Pac-12 championship game. They were a New Year's 6 qualifier with 2 losses. And you had USC winning the Pac-12 with 2 losses. So they were not in the running. So you've had a team with 2 losses each season when 1 loss, it required 1 loss, and not even all the 1-loss teams made the playoffs. So It's not been shown yet that the Pac-12 is going to be left out of the playoffs if it has a team that's positioned to be selected. Carolina, we never forget about Auburn. I bring them up all the time. They should claim a national championship for 2004. That was one of those years where Oklahoma and USC started 1-2 in the polls. Auburn, I believe, was preseason 19. So simply what happened was they all won and won impressively. And Auburn probably played in the best conference and had the most difficult conference championship game, while the other two did not play a conference championship game. At least USC did not. And all that happened was at the end, Auburn just hit the ceiling. The teams weren't necessarily reevaluated week to week, but Oklahoma and USC maintained 1 and 2 in 04 because they were undefeated and they started the season 1-2, where Auburn had to climb from 19, so they just hit the wall. That's all that happened there, and only 2 teams could play in the championship. Chris, disputed national championship. There's another one, 04. Auburn, undefeated, did not have an opportunity. That doesn't take away from what USC accomplished as an undefeated national champion. I'm not taking the championship away from USC in 04. I'm simply saying it's disputed because there was another team involved that was not given up an opportunity despite having a similar resume. That's what it's all about. Yes, Chippy is letting us know that USC smashed Auburn the year before. There's a key portion in that statement, though. The year before. What's that have to? That's a nice side note, Chippy, if you're just bringing it to the table as a side note. But if you're offering that as an argument, it's not an argument. What happened the year before doesn't apply to. If you want to play that game, we're going to be applying separate years. Then why not go back 2 years, 3 years? USC would have rolled Auburn in 04. That's a matter of opinion. The game was not played. We don't know that. That's your opinion. We shouldn't be awarding championships based on people's opinions of what would have happened. I will always answer the question of what I believe would have happened. Yes, thank you. The Rod Farva, 1994 Penn State, undefeated. 04 Auburn, legitimate arguments for championship claims. Yes, that's all I'm saying. That doesn't mean that they should be taken away from the other team. That's not the point I'm making. Those teams have a claim, a legit claim for a national championship. They went undefeated in major conferences, either the best or second best conference in the nation. Some of our national championships, many of them are just kind of arbitrary. All right. Good stuff from everyone. Again, Quinn Ewers enrolls at Ohio State. We don't know when he's going to be cleared to play. The guesstimate from what I've read online in several stories is in the next, maybe that puts him behind a week or two. So he's in a hole, competitively speaking, for the starting quarterback job. Okay, especially since they played 2 days early. But he's got all the talent in the world, is most likely the most talented in the room. But it's about leadership, learning the offense, making the right decisions, not on a whiteboard, but in the game against, well, it's going to be in practice in difficult situations and circumstances to be able to not just process the playbook, but be able to execute it in a split second and show some leadership capabilities. That's what it's about. It's not about the talent. We know the talent is enough. All right. I will see everyone here at 7 Eastern. Special announcement. We'll talk college football, of course, with you here at the Voice of College Football. Appreciate everybody showing up on last second notice to talk Quinn Ewers and everything else we discussed. Of course, our conversations usually run down all sorts of different paths. Thanks to you. You ultimately, all of you, I hope you understand and relish the authority and power you have here at the Voice of College Football. You are the producers of this show. You ask the questions, you make the comments, you bring up the debate topics. You guys produce the show. So I appreciate everybody being here. Appreciate your support. Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App. Just search Mark Rogers TV there. Also, keep in mind that we're going to be right back here, as I just stated, at 7 o'clock Eastern Time with a special programming announcement for this fall. And also keep in mind that our fine folks at TriStateWoodsketch.com, they do work like this. And no, that doesn't mean that you have to purchase that. Please, please. That would scare everyone off. I understand. No, that is just an example of their fine work there at TriStateWoodsketch.com. Buy one, get one free if you drop my name. Voice of College Football, Mark. Either way, TriStateWoodsketch.com. Check out their work. You choose the photo, your dog, your cat, your loved one, whomever it is, a nice beach scene, and then you select the surface as well, and they put together a quality product. This is just one example of what they sent me. Good stuff right there at TriStateWoodsketch.com. Also, check out our work at the Voice of College Football. And if you would like to gear up for the season, you can do it right there in our store. Go to voiceofcollegefootball.com, voiceofcollegefootball.com. Go to the top of the screen, select store. And I cannot find the right banner to show you, unfortunately. So you're going to have to just picture this. Go to voiceofcollegefootball.com, go to the top of the screen and select store. And there you go. You can select anything you'd like from your favorite team. All right, folks, we will see you at 7 Eastern tonight to talk college football and make our big announcement. We will see you then. And I appreciate all of you, as I hope you know. See you then.